Hello everyone, I am Tech Girl Steph, aka Stephanie, aka whoever you want me to be. This channel used to be like a lot of like makeup and lifestyle and things of that nature, but I'm kind of on a different path in my life. Ever since like the last like 4 years, I've kind of like shifted from like makeup to tech to this to that. And so today I just decided that I'm just gonna make a video on how I got into tech, especially since we don't really see a lot of black men and women, minorities. You know what I'm trying to say. We don't really see that many of us in the tech world. So I just wanted to, come on here and kind of talk and just like explain how I got into tech, how I think you can get into tech, and like the pros and cons, I guess, a little bit, like I can kind of talk about. So basically I have my little journal here, and I'm sorry if I'm like looking over here and I'm looking over there, like I'm still trying to like remember where to look. So I'm trying to like look right here so I can like feel like you're here. But if I'm looking over here, I apologize. So I'm gonna start off with like what I've done like in the past, and that's like I've done like a lot of like makeup jobs. I used to be like a makeup artist. I've been like a counter manager at Lacombe. I have, done like customer service jobs. You name it, I've pretty much done it. I've also done like CNA type jobs, nursing, working for like nursing homes. I've been a preschool teacher. So I have my fair share of like job experience. And I'm 31 years old, and I started working when I was 14, almost 15. So yeah, I've kind of had like my fair share of like jobs. Like my first job was working at Savers. I don't know if you know what Savers is, but it's like a it's like a kind of like a Goodwill in a way, I guess I would say, but it's called Savers, and they have like clothes and they have like lots of different things, but yeah, it's called Savers. And I worked there when I lived in Texas. Now I'm currently residing in Michigan. So yeah. So that was like my first job, and that was all like fine and dandy, whatever, but I always knew like I wanted to do more. I've always been very like tech savvy. Not really like so much tech savvy, not like most people who like start coding when they're like 15, stuff like that. Like, of course we were coding. Like, I try to tell people that I'm like, hey, we were coding when we were like doing stuff on MySpace. Like, that's coding when you were like making the little butterflies go down, and you was like, or you were like, putting, what's it called? You were putting like names going down, or you were putting like the songs in the background. That's all like coding, pretty much. So a lot of us started off coding on MySpace, but we just didn't realize it, and our brains were a lot more open then. So like we felt like we could do it without like any issues. As long as we learned from a friend, we were doing it with no issues. So that's kind of like where I started like kind of being like more into tech, is when like MySpace came out, and I was just like, oh my God, like I can make this happen and I can make that happen. And yeah, so that's just kind of like where I started as far as like being into tech. And so, years went by, whatever, I had children, went about my years and all that. So 2019 hit, and it was like a really like changing big year for me. Me and my now husband, again, which that could be another story time of how me and my husband got divorced and then we got remarried. But we like split up around that time, and it was just a really hard time for me, and I didn't know what I wanted to do in my life. And at the same time, like I was going through a lot, like mentally, as far as like depression, anxiety. I was going through like a lot. I didn't even recognize myself then, and it's like really hard to say that, but I didn't recognize myself then. No one recognized me. I was a completely different person, and I was just at like my lowest of low at that time. So pretty much I had to pick myself up, and I had to just figure out like, what am I going to do in my life? Because I can't sit here forever and just like feel bad for myself. Yeah, like I allowed myself to feel bad for like a couple of months, but I didn't allow it to happen like forever. So also I was like, in between that time I was in like another relationship. So yeah, we're gonna talk about that another time, not right now. But yeah, so I was like just going through a lot, being in another relationship, going through my ups and downs, trying to figure myself out, healing, whatever, blah blah blah. So a company had reached out to me in 2019, and they were like, hey, you know, we're looking for people who have customer service experience but that are interested in like tech, and that are like, you know, fast learners and easy to pick up things. And I was like, well, you know, that's me. I'll go on an interview and see if I like it. So I went on that interview and I was like, okay, I kind of like this. So I started working for that company, and the company name is Apogee. I don't know if I'm saying that correctly, but they were a company that like, when all the students come back from like spring break and stuff, they pretty much help them like log on. They provide the internet access and the cable access for all like different college campuses all over the world. So pretty much what my job entailed was people would call in and they would say, hey, you know, I can't log in to this, or I don't remember the password to that, or, you know, this is down, or hey, what are these channels, or whatever. So I would be the one that would like have to log into their, you know, the system, and then log into their account and say, oh yeah, this is you. Okay, verify who you are. You know, the whole rundown. We all know the whole rundown when they give us when we have to like call places. So they were like doing that or whatever. And then, you know, it was just like, okay, you know, I was like, I can do this. And so it kind of like started off as like, they told us, okay, you guys, like, we're going to do like a 2-month training, you know. So we went through, cause like a lot of people there like weren't like tech savvy at all. Like they didn't know what like a network is. They didn't know like difference between like WAN and LAN, you know, wide area network, or, you know, local area network. They didn't know, they knew none of that. Like at least like I had some like grounding to kind of know like some stuff. I didn't know everything, but I knew some stuff. So a lot of stuff, if I didn't know, like I just studied. Like I was just like, okay, I'll write everything down. I'll say, okay, I'm going to go home and study this, because I'm one to like, I want to know what I'm doing. I want to know like what my job entails. So I want to be able to do my job well. So I'm not going to, you know, go about my job and just be like, I don't know what I'm doing and look dumb. So anyway, so I ended up, you know, getting, you know, being good in that position. But what got me was like, they were like, oh, we're going to, you know, we're going to like call it nesting, where like they pretty much like listen to you take calls. They like sit with you, all that, to like make sure you know what you're doing when you're taking calls, because you're taking calls from people all over the world. And like when you do get a call, you're kind of like, that first call you kind of get stuck. Like when you're like, thank you for calling such and such, and you're like sitting there, and then they're like, oh yeah, I need this, and you're kind of like, oh, okay, all right, yeah, I can do this, and you really don't know what the hell you're doing. So it's like, they said they were going to sit with us and all that. They sat with us literally for like 2 days. And like on that 3rd day, they were like, oh, you guys are good. You got it. All right, we'll see you. Bye. And yeah, so we pretty much like had to just learn on our own. And there was essentially like no, there was essentially like no nesting period at that job. So I did that job and I did it really well. I worked there for a couple of months because it was a contract position. If you don't know what a contract position is, it's a position where companies will contract tech people through tech recruiters, and they only need you for like a certain length of time to, you know, help with the boost of, you know, essentially like all those college students coming back. They needed more people on site so that they could, you know, fill the gap of like people that weren't there, essentially, if you understand what I'm saying. So yeah, so they just essentially were like, okay, you know, after 6 months, they were like, okay, you know, we're done, we're cool, you know, thank you for coming, have a nice life. Again, I was going through a lot at that time, so there was a lot of emotions. There was a lot of, oh my God, what am I going to do? Because they also told us like, you can stay there for 6 months, but then you can also go out of your contract and go full time. But I guess a lot of people, they said that they just had too many people, and they were like, you know, we're not going to put anybody on full time. We're just gonna stay with people that we have here and we'll figure it out from there. So I'm like, okay, cool, whatever. You know, gotta go about my life. So I went about my life, and I'm gonna look back at my notebook because I have like every couple things written right here. So then 2020 happened, and in 2020 it was like a really tough time for a lot of people because COVID happened. And March of 2020, I got furloughed from my job. I was working in the malls when I was working as a counter manager for Lancome, doing makeup, selling makeup. I loved my job. It was like what I love to do. I loved putting makeup on people. I loved helping like women like find their makeup shades. You know, they were always telling me, oh my God, you're so good. Like, can you put makeup on me? You know, whatever. You know, I just love that like inspiration. I love working around the other counter managers because there was also like, you know, like the Estee Lauder counter and the Clinique counter, and there was like all kind of different counters like around me that I was just like so like inspired, and I was really at the height of like my makeup like career at that time is what I felt like. And then, you know, one day like we just started noticing, you know, customers were kind of like not really coming in. So we were like, oh man, you know, what are we gonna do? And so then one day like my boss just came and she said, hey, we got a furlough, you know, such and such, because, you know, they're closing down the malls. So they furloughed us, told us, hey, this is how you fill out unemployment. I had never been on unemployment in my life. I didn't know what the hell I was doing. I was like, what the hell? Like, what am I going to do? And again, at that time, I was in a very, like, not good relationship for me at that time. So it was, like, really hard for me at that time because I was like, okay, now I got, like, at that time, like, going to work was something that took my mind off of things. But, like, now having to be stuck at home was, like, something that, like, amplified my, like, depression and anxiety and all of that. And so I essentially just, like, went about my life or whatever, for a couple of months or whatever, and me and that individual ended up like breaking up. And I ended up like having to move in with my mom, and I moved in with her. And of course, like I had nothing at that time because I was still waiting on unemployment to come. And if anybody knows, like that is the like worst feeling, is to have to ask your parents for money, having to ask like, can I come live with you? Because I had been by myself and on my own since I was like 15. And I did not like essentially go back to my parents' house. I had never like really asked them for anything. So it's like at this time, like having to be like, hey mom, you know, can you help me with some food? You know, just like really like took something out of me at that time, and it made me even more depressed. And so, but again, I kept pushing. I was like, Stephanie, you just got to keep pushing. You got to keep pushing. You're going to make it. You're going to be all right. So at that time, I also ended up applying for school, which I am in school at Southern New Hampshire University. I go online. I've been going for about a year, almost 2 years. Well, basically 2 years now. I've been going to Southern New Hampshire University about a year and a half, because it also, like once I applied, it like took time because I had a lot going on with like, I was in school before, and it took like a lot of like transferring credits and just a lot of hoopla and shit in order to get me like enrolled in school. But when I finally got enrolled, I've been going now for about a year and a half. And I was going for like my computer science degree, but now I'm going for like networking. And so that's a story for another time. I mean, it does like wrap up into this because it is essentially like tech. But yeah, so I enrolled in school and I was like, I got to do something. Like, I can't just like sit here like every day and just be like, what am I going to do with my life? What am I going to do? Like, there's nothing to do. So I just pretty much just was like, okay, keep pushing, keep going, you know, whatever. So I kept going, you know, kept pushing myself, kept saying, just at least you're enrolled in school, you'll be good. And then I got reached out to by Spectrum for like a job. And I was like, hey, and I mean like Spectrum, like the internet and cable service. Like I know there's like Spectrum hospitals and stuff like that too. But to clarify, I mean Spectrum, like internet, cable, all that. I got reached out to by them for a job, went in for an interview. No, I did an interview, 2 interviews on Zoom or whatever, because again, this was 2020. This was at like the very height of the pandemic. And they were like, okay, well, you would have to come into office. And I was like, I don't even care because the money was good at the time. I'm just going to be upfront. I was making like $18 an hour at that time. And I was just like, oh, like this is like really good money. And you know, it was like really like at that point in my life, it was like the most money that I had ever made in a position. So I was just like, oh hell yeah, like I'm gonna do this. So I ended up going to work for Spectrum. I worked for them for about like 8 or 9 months, maybe 10 months, around there. I worked for them, but it was just a very like toxic workplace for me. Like the management was just, and the like at the time, like during COVID, it was just like a lot going on. It was like just, I was just very like, I don't know, I'm not feeling this. And at the, like I said at the time too, like I was just like in a lot of like pain from like dealing with stuff from, you know, mental health to anxiety to just dealing with a lot at that time when I was working there, and like every day having to go in and just push myself. And you know, and I worked on the business side, so it was like easier than the customer side, but at the same time, working with people and they telling you about their bills and they getting mad because, you know, the internet's down, they think it's your fault. I'm like, sir, I did not turn off your internet. You turned off your internet by not paying that bill. Like, I understand at that time it was just like a lot going on for a lot of people, and some people couldn't afford things, but that's not my fault. Like, so I'm not COVID, so it's like not my fault. So I worked for them for a while, and that job like actually taught me like a lot more than what I thought it was going to, because in that job, like we did also like a lot of networking. We did learning how to like remote into devices. We did like a lot of tunneling and SSH, which is basically just like making the router, you know, from like static to, you know, whatever like IP they wanted. Stuff like that. Like if you don't know, just look up SSH or, you know, whatever. Tunneling, stuff like that. That job was very like technically more in depth than what I thought it was going to be. I thought it was just going to be like talking on the phone. Oh, okay, you need me to log into your modem. Oh, okay, yeah, I see it's up. Whatever, you know, have a nice day. But no, it was like a lot more technical than that. And I really do appreciate that job because it did teach me a lot. And then, yeah, I ended up leaving there because I was just going through a lot at the time. Again, it was at the very height of a lot of things, like with my daughter and her and her mental health and stuff like that. So I was just like, oh my God, like, what am I going to do? And so I stopped working there, and then I didn't have a job for like a while. Like I wasn't working anywhere, and I was just on unemployment, and I hated it because I'm the type where I have to be doing something. Like I don't like just laying down. I don't like just playing video games all day. Like even though I love gaming, I love doing what I do, I love reading, I love all of that shit, but at the same time it was like I needed to be doing something productive. Like I hate not doing anything productive, and it made me feel like so low. And yeah, so I ended up being on unemployment for a while. And then I got my break when I applied to work for Whole Foods. And it wasn't essentially like Whole Foods. It was actually like through another company that I applied to work for Whole Foods. Let me turn my screen back on, because who told you to turn off screen? I decided to like apply for this job. It was like a technical job, and I was like, hey, I have this experience, so why don't I apply myself? Me thinking that I'm not gonna get this job. I'm like, Stephanie, like, you know, like you cross like X and Y, but I'm not sure that you cross Z, sis. I'm like, so I don't know if I'm gonna get this. So I had to do 2 interviews with them, and they were like, okay, we'll let you know. And like when I interviewed with them, like they were asking all these technical questions, and I knew like most of it. Some stuff I was like not really guessing on, but like I was kind of like, oh yeah, I think I remember this, and I think I remember that. And they're like, well, do you know how to do this? You know, I'm just like, yeah. You know, just kind of just, you know, teaching along, you know, kind of trying to, you know, feel my way around, you know, my little fillers or whatever. So then I got the call, and they were like, you got the job. And I was like, oh shit. Like that same day, they called me later on the day. They was like, the tech recruiter that I worked through called me, and he said they would love to have you. And I was like, wow, okay. So thank God with that. I think Whole Foods is like my best job so far, because I worked from home. That whole time I worked for them for about 2 years, year and a half, 2 years. That was like my best job. Like, I love working for Whole Foods. Basically, like, I would just talk to the employees in the store. They would say, hey, this register is down, or hey, this scale isn't working, and I would have to actually remote into those devices and fix them. And if I couldn't fix them myself with like a script or things of the nature, if I couldn't fix them with that, then I would have to like call in, for a tech to go out and fix it like on site, because sometimes it was like hardware issues more than software. I was on the software side. If there's something wrong with the software and I can fix it, I'm gonna fix it. But if I can't, then we just gonna have to have somebody come and fix it for you. So, and I love that job because I worked from home. I worked 5 a.m. to 2 p.m., which I felt like were good hours for me, because I got up early and it helped me like be motivated. But then I also got up early, which helped me get motivated, but I also got off early, which also helped me stay motivated because I still had plenty of time to do whatever I had to do after I got off work. And so I ended up working for them for a while, and I love that job like so much. Like, I had great management, I had great supervisors. There was times that I was still like, just like, oh man, dealing with a lot of anxiety, dealing with things. And like, they were really good about training. Like, I was trained like very well, on their systems, on the processes, on whatever. Like, they told me to take my time. That was like actually the first job where I took my time, like learning things, because I really wanted to just do really well at my job. And so I ended up doing that, and I love that job. I really did. And yeah, so I ended up working for Whole Foods for a while, and then I moved up to Michigan in that process. And of course they were like, hey, you gotta be living here in Texas. You can't be living in Michigan and working for us, even though it was a remote position. I'm like, hey, it's remote. Like, what's the difference? But yeah, so they wanted me to be able to work, like, because at that time we were also doing like maybe one day in the office if we wanted to. But they also knew like we were probably going to be going back to the office soon. So they were like, hey, we need you to be able to like be here, whatever. Which I understood. So I'm like, okay, cool. I'll holler at y'all. Thank you. They gave me a great recommendation. Like, I talked to my supervisor. I said, hey, thank you for everything. He's like, hey, if you need anything, let us know, whatever. And so then after that, I didn't work for like a little while. I was just like enjoying it, because at this time, like when I moved back to Michigan, me and my husband had ended up like getting remarried, and just spending time with my kids and just like doing our family thing and like getting back in the process of everything. And then I was getting reached out to like a lot, because at this time, like, I also like started like really like amping up my what's it called, my LinkedIn. So LinkedIn is a great resource because tech recruiters are always, LinkedIn and Twitter, tech recruiters are always on there looking for people. Always. Like, even if you don't have like experience, they'll say, hey, if you don't have an experience, we'll like teach you or whatever. Like, that is a great way to like get into the tech field. And so so I got reached out to by a recruiter on LinkedIn, and he was like, hey, I have this job, I think you'd be great at it. And I went and I did the interview, got the job the same day. I worked at that place for about 2 months, and then another recruiter reached out to me on LinkedIn and said, hey, I have this job. And at this time, at this job, which is this job I'm currently at now, I was actually going to be making like a $6 jump in pay. So I was going from, one pay to another, but at $6 more. And it was like a company that I really wanted to work for. It's a company that like they're a huge company. They're well known. And I don't really want to talk about like the company right now, maybe like in the future, but I don't want to like say who the company is right now. But I worked with them, and I was just like, I went to the interview and I was like, okay, I'm going to do this. I'm going to be okay. I prayed about it. I was like, I really want to work, because they're like very like adamant about like, you have to know what you're doing with this company. Like, it's not like something where they're like, oh, we just hire anybody. Like, they don't just hire anybody at this company. Like, a lot of people have been like trying to get in, and it doesn't happen, which I'm very, very, very thankful and grateful. Like, I love my job now. Like, at first it was a little bit like tricky and stuff, just learning the systems and stuff, because it's like way more in depth of like other jobs, other tech jobs. But now that I know the systems, it's like, it's a breeze for me. But yeah, so I went in and I was just like, okay, Stephanie, you can do this. I did the interview. Literally, I was standing outside waiting on my husband, Ryan, to come back, because he had dropped me off at the interview. And I was sitting there and my phone rings. You know, I called him and I said, hey, I'm done. And, you know, it took like 30 minutes, not even 30 minutes, like 15, 20 minutes for like the interview. And they told me it's going to take like an hour. And I'm like, oh, they're probably not going to hire me. Like, the guy that like interviewed me, I was like, I don't know if they're going to hire me. Like, I don't know, you know, maybe not. I felt like the interview went great, but you know, you never know with interviews, because sometimes you feel like the interview went amazing and then people never call you back. So I was like, okay. So I called my husband. I said, hey, you know, I'm ready. You know, he's like, oh, you're done already? I'm like, yeah, I'm done. You know, blah, 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 whatever. Okay, see you soon. We'll be there in like 10 minutes or whatever. Okay, cool. So hung up with him. And then I got a text that said, from the tech recruiter, he said, hey, can you talk? And I said, oh yeah, sure, I can talk, you know. And we got on the phone and he said, hey, how did the interview go? And I said, oh, I felt like it went great. And, you know, he's like, okay, you know, do you like the company culture, all that? You know, you feel like the pay was great? I was like, yeah, I feel like everything was great, you know, blah, blah. He's like, so do you think if they offered you the position that you would take it? And I'm like, yeah, absolutely. He's like, well, that's good, because they offered you the position. Listen, when I tell you, my heart literally like was like, doom. It just stopped in my chest, and I was like, wait a minute, what? Me? They want me? Here comes the fucking imposter syndrome. Like, they want me. I immediately felt immediate imposter syndrome. If you don't know what imposter syndrome is, it's just feeling like you don't belong in that space because you don't see a lot of you in that space. Like, I don't see any black women in tech around me, and I have not yet. I've only seen like white women, but I've never seen black women or Asian women or Mexican women or anything. Like, I've only seen me. So like, just in that moment, I was just like, oh man, like, am I gonna be good at this job? And I started thinking about all these things, and I was like, Stephanie, nope, don't do this, don't do it. So yeah, so I ended up getting that job, and that's the job I'm currently at now. I did explain to my last job, like, hey, I'm so sorry, you know, but this is an opportunity I can't, like, pass up. And my supervisor at my last job was, like, really cool. He was really great. He was really understanding. Like, he was like, no, we understand. Like, if you got that jump, he's like, it would be, like, you would be out of your mind to, like, not make that jump to, like, that company, because we know, like, it's a great company. You know, even though they're kind of like their competition or whatever, he's like, he was very like open and honest with me. He was like, you're a black woman, I just want to see you succeed. And I really, really, really appreciated that, because there's a lot of people out there, even at my job now, they're like, I pass by some men and I can tell like that they don't like what they see, because I am a black woman and I am in the space that they're in. And some of them, like, they're having to call me for help with issues. So yeah, so I can kind of understand that. But y'all, it's been, so from 2019 to 2022, it took me to get to where I am now. I'm just saying that it does take time. You're not going to be where you want to be on that first day. I remember that first day on that job at Apogee, I was like, I can't do this. I was like, nope, can't talk to these people. I don't know how I'm going to log into their modems and their routers and this and that. And I was just like, I don't know how I'm going to do it. But I did it, and I kept persevering. And then when I got to Spectrum, I felt the same way. I was like, damn, this is a lot. This is a lot of information. This is overwhelming. This is too much. And I wanted to give up, but I didn't. And it led me to where I am now. And I'm doing really well in school. Right now, I am on a break in school. I took like a couple months break because I was just going so hard, like just working full time, going to school full time. It took, like, I'm getting all A's in my classes, and that's not like easy, because you constantly like have to be like, when I come home, I'm on this computer like a couple of hours, like after work, coming home to do more work. And then I'm also like a mother, and I'm a wife and all that. So it's like, it was just like a lot. And so I had to persevere through a lot. And people that know me know all the shit that I was going through at that time. So I'm very proud of me from going from where I was to where I am now. And I'm just going to continue to like climb the ladder and stuff like that. So that's essentially my like story about how I got into tech. Was just, I just so happened to be reached out to by a recruiter who was looking for someone with good customer service skills, which I have. And it just went from there, and I just kept being like interested in those type of jobs, and that's just the type of jobs I kept getting. So I would say the pros of like tech is it's growing fast. It is it's high paying jobs. You're always going to have a job in tech. It's not going anywhere, and it's something that's like constantly changing, so you're not going to get bored. I would say the cons are, if you're like a minority, that sometimes you can feel a lot of imposter syndrome. You can feel like you don't belong in that space. Some days I still feel defeated, and I have to like really pick myself up and say, Stephanie, you belong here because you're just as smart as anybody else in this room, if not sometimes smarter. And I'm not saying that like to be like, oh, I'm smarter than you. I'm just like saying that so that like I know in my mind, like, Stephanie, like, you got this. I would also say that like sometimes it is like the management might not be as good, because there sometimes is like changing management like a lot because of a lot of different systems and stuff. The learning curve can be frustrating when it comes to tech. So if you're somebody that's like going to give up easily, tech probably is not for you, because the shit is not easy at all in the beginning. But once you get it and that shit sticks in your brain in here, you're going to be like, okay, I got this, period. I can do this. Like, and you go in with confidence. And then I would also say like another con would be, I don't know. I think those are all my cons, honestly, because I think there's more pros, honestly, to tech than cons from like what I've like dealt with. But I will say that like as a Black woman, you just have to just know like this is the space that I belong in. As a Black man, as a Black woman, really anybody. I don't care like who you are, but I'm just saying like, especially someone that looks like me, like, because every day when I go to work, I don't see anybody that looks like me. Like, I'm the only like Black woman amongst all middle-aged to older white men around me who are either like cool with me and like, oh my God, like cool, you know, and we talk and, you know, we talk about different stuff and we talk about work or whatever. Or other ones that like don't talk to me at all and they just pass by and they give me a weird ass look like, what are you doing here? Like, so you got to kind of like have like that toughness about you and be like, I don't care. Like, I'm here just like you here. I'm getting paid what you getting paid because I'm smart. I got this. But I don't want to make this video like too long. I hope that like I was able to like essentially like help somebody, you know, who wants to like get into tech, who wants to, you know, just be in that space, or who wanted to like know like where to start. I would say start with LinkedIn. Get your LinkedIn profile up. Even if you're like not into tech or you haven't been, like, start kind of like putting your mind towards it and saying, okay, what can I do to get myself in the door? You know, I have great customer service skills. I can apply that to tech. I'm a fast learner. I can apply that to tech. Start going to like websites like Free Code Camp, where like you can teach yourself how to code. Start looking up on YouTube places that teach you like how to code or teach you about networks or whatever. Like, apply yourself. That's what I had to do. I had to apply myself to what, and I still have to apply myself every day. There's some shit at work that they're like, oh yeah, this, and this. And I'm like, what is that? And then they're like, oh, hold on. And then like, they'll like send me a link or something. I'm like, oh, okay. I got it. I can do that. Cool. So you just have to just know that it's an ever-changing industry, but it's also an industry that's gonna help you like keep going like this, because that's all I've done. Like, I went from like here and now I'm like here. One day I'm gonna be up here once I get that degree. I got 3 years to get that degree, and then it's gonna be over. So again, I hope I helped somebody with this video. I hope, like, I just want to come out be as real as possible. If you have any questions, please ask below. I will answer any questions. I will post my Twitter down below. I will post my Instagram. I think only on Twitter and Instagram is mainly like what I get on. Like, I just got back on Instagram. I've been on Twitter for a while. It's where like I post like a lot of like different things. I've been on a couple of different like tech spaces on there. Just talking about like how I got into tech, stuff like that. I'll also post my LinkedIn if you want to like reach out to me and you just kind of want to see like where you need to go or what you need to do. I'm willing to help anybody out. Just let me know. And I appreciate you guys for following me, for liking, for sharing, for whatever you do for this video. Even if you just watch it for 5 minutes, cool. Like, I appreciate anything that you can do to help this video get out there to others. And I hope that you continue to come back to my channel. I hope that you subscribe. I hope that I was able to help you. And I hope that you have a great rest of your day. And thank you for watching my video. Please like, comment, and subscribe, like down below or wherever it's at. I'm still trying to get back used I'm about to call this Snapchat. I'm still trying to get back used to YouTube again. So like, comment, and subscribe down below. I appreciate you. And I hope that you guys have a great rest of your day and have a great week. And know that you can do it as long as you put your mind to it. Bye.